He should have known the second they walked in. We discussed that.
Yeah, their faces aren't changed enough to not know. But yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously when you're at a point where you're physically making contact.
Wait a minute. These are Lucy's boobs. Oh, no.
Babaloo. That's a booby bongo joke, ladies and gentlemen.
Booby bongo.
Isn't that one of the Four Horsemen?
Oh, come on. Bongo McMichaels is not doing well.
Stop.
Booby Bongo McMichael.
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, a show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about I Love Lucy. I Love Lucy won 180 episodes over 6 seasons on CBS. Today we're talking about episode 1, which was called The Girls Want to Go to the Nightclub, originally airing October 15th, 1951. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys, most of the boys, Nick, Berg, and Gordo. What's going on, guys?
Heyo.
Hello.
You hit her kind of hard there, Rick.
That wasn't from this one.
I have 2 questions. What number black and white show is this? And is this... I know it's not the oldest show we've done, but it's got to be right there, right?
No, this might be the oldest.
This is the oldest.
Is it the oldest? I feel like we did something older than this before, but maybe not.
Also, how are we supposed to have those stats ready in our brain?
I don't know. I figure we haven't done many black and white.
I think this is number 3. We have this, The Munsters.
The Munsters, The Addams Family, Bewitched. But we did the colorized version of Bewitched, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this should be 3.
Did we do any other old shows?
Not that we're in black and white, no. And those were both actually, I believe, I don't remember Bewitched, but I want to say Munsters and Addams Family are both either 62 or 64. They're both the same year.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is our first show from the 50s. I have a quick, list of things that were going on in 1951. If you want to set the time,
Go get him, Tiger.
Go for it.
okay. So Harry Truman was president. I'll give anybody here $50 if they can tell me who the vice president was.
Doris Day.
Damn it, I was going to say that.
No, it was Alban Barkley. The average cost. Now this is kind of crazy. The average cost of a new home, $9,000. The average cost of a new car, $1,500. I feel like that gap is too small. Like, why is 4 cars the same as 1 house? Like, I don't get that at all. A gallon of gas, 19 cents. The minimum wage, 75 cents. The average monthly rent. What do you think Lucy and Ricky were paying for average monthly rent in New York City? Just guess.
$15.
60.
Jay?
$20.
This is a little suspect because it's $60. I think Gordo may have known the answer.
I didn't actually. That was just out of my ass.
Then good call. Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays played their first MLB games in 1951. Also, Joe DiMaggio retired. In 1951, the first Dennis the Menace comic strip debuted. Ben Carson, Charles S. Dutton, Chesley Sullenberger, a.k.a. Sully from that crazy crash plane that everybody survived. John Mellencamp, Luther Vandross, Michael Keaton, Kurt Russell, Phil Collins, Robin Williams, Rush Limbaugh, Sting, Tommy Hilfiger, and Tony Danza, all born 1951. The first regularly scheduled transatlantic flights between New York and London began. The first jet passenger trip was made. Fidel Castro was ejected from a Winter League baseball classic. Gordie Howe scored his 100th NHL goal. The first hydrogen bomb was designed. Colored television was first introduced. Yul Brynner makes his first appearance as the king of Siam in Siam. How do you say that? Siam.
Siam.
That's okay. In Rodgers and Hammerstein's The King and I, on December 16th, the police drama Dragnet debuted. And the popular names in 1951 were James, Robert, John, Michael, Linda, Mary, Patricia, and Deborah. I think all of our middle or first names were just covered. What do you think the per pound beef and chicken was in 1951?
9 cents for beef, 5 cents for chicken.
Why do you look like you're reading?
I will tell you that they're both the same.
12 cents a pound.
I have no idea. I don't know what it is now.
How do you? Okay, 65 cents. But there's a website that gives you essentially everything that ever happened on a year-to-year basis. So I spent a lot of time in 1951 on this website.
Did you watch the show, though?
I did watch the show, yes. So you can get 48 pounds of potatoes for $1.99. I don't know why it was listed like that. Everything else was listed for like 65 cents a pound, but this was $1.99 for 48 pounds of potatoes, which seemed a little crazy. But yeah, there's some 1951 info.
Well, while you're talking, you're the one who picked this episode. Any particular reason you wanted to do this show? Was it to give off all these stats?
We should be roundabout Lucille Ball's death anniversary.
35 years, I think.
35 years, yeah. But that's not, I actually found that out after the fact, after I picked it. It just happened to work out. I've wanted to do this show for a long time. It's just such an iconic show. I think it's regarded as maybe one of the best, sitcoms of all time.
There were a couple times I kind of slotted it thinking we might do it for like Valentine's Day, and it just never quite worked out.
And I have been watching it. There's I do a lot of Pluto TV at night, and there's an I Love Lucy channel, and we throw that on sometimes just for, some background bedtime, and I've been really enjoying it, so I figured why not cover it.
Did you watch Being the Ricardos? Nicole Kidman?
With Nicole Kidman? Yeah, I saw probably I think I missed like the first quarter of it, but what I saw was really good. I did enjoy it. I like what's his name as William Frawley. I can't think of his name. He's the newspaper guy in Spider-Man. He's in everything.
J.K. Simmons?
J.K. Simmons, yes. He plays William Frawley in that. And it's not really a physical match, but he did a good job.
Also, I mean, I know we're many minutes in now, but I did want to say Joe couldn't be here this week. Unfortunately, it was on his bucket list. He's always wanted to skydive. He did. He's okay. I want everyone to know he's okay, but he did get caught in a tree, and it's taking excessive amount of time to get him out of that tree. So, unfortunately, he won't be here this week.
Where did he go?
He lives in Canada. It's nothing but trees. Like the idea of safely landing in a patch of nothing is against his favor.
So they must just be looking for the tree.
So they're just
first.
going through all the trees.
He's just stuck in a redwood somewhere.
They just got to look for the customized tote bag hanging from a branch to find Joe.
And I wanted to go over a couple other numbers real quick. IMDb has the show listed as an 8.5. Rotten Tomatoes, 91% critic, 97% audience. I Love Lucy, obviously one of the more loved and renowned shows of all time. Doing shows like this are always really interesting because it's nearly impossible to forget what you know about the show, which is what we try to do. And then also just nostalgia in general, because I find sometimes the shows we watch, whether they're good or bad, just the nostalgia of remembering watching them growing up makes you like them a little bit more. So that can get tricky, but I guess we'll try to analyze as fairly as we can in those situations.
Yeah, I kind of get teleported when you watch. Like, it's one of those, you hear a song or you see his TV show and you just kind of go back to, like 1998 when you were watching it in your bedroom.
Yeah, that's the thing. This isn't even like our era. The show came out many, many years before we were born.
Yeah, we all watched this on Nick at Night.
Right.
Yeah, in heavy syndication, yeah.
My Nana, a huge I Love Lucy fan. The reason my dad's name is Ricky is because of I Love Lucy.
Oh, no shit. I didn't know that, yeah. Also, Jay, I wanted to correct. We all said you were wrong about something that you were actually right about.
Nice.
Don't give him that.
Don't give him it.
Little Ricky was not played by Desi Arnaz Jr., and I always thought that they used him to play him, but he was played by, as babies, he was played by multiple, and then he was played by Keith Thibodeau, who was the one you probably remember the most as like an older toddler who would drum. And I would have bet like a large amount of money on the fact that that was actually Desi Arnaz Jr., but it was not. That guy ended up going on to the Andy Griffith Show and everything, so he had a career after that too.
Oh, good for him. I have some trivia for you. The Gourd Man's got some trivia.
So you have fake facts.
I don't. This is from lucydesi.com. Actually,
Some of these things, I read the list because you sent it to us ahead of time. Most of it will not pertain to this episode.
No, but this actually does. Number 18 on their list says, I Love Lucy was pioneering for its use of multiple simultaneously filming cameras and a live studio audience. It was also one of the first TV shows to be shot on 35 millimeter film rather than broadcast live.
So this is actually really interesting. I went kind of deep on this part of it.
I read up on the stuff a little bit too.
It's wild. I didn't know. So before this, pretty much, they would essentially record TV shows like a play.
Live.
Linearly in chronological order, and it would just get broadcast live. And how they would, broadcast and record it was on a kinescope, which is just a type of camera that is pointed at the screen. And then they would record the screen, and that's how it would get broadcast.
Oh, that's crazy.
And so Philip Morris was the one who kind of sponsored and funded the start of I Love Lucy. Basically, how it would work is you would be on the East Coast or the West Coast, and then the live show would happen. They would do it through the kinescope, and then, so if it was on the East Coast, the West Coast broadcast was shittier because through the kinescope and how far it had to travel through that time's technology, it just didn't look as good. So they wanted them to record and broadcast from the East Coast, but they were from, Hollywood. They wanted to stay there. They ended up taking pay cuts and convincing them to do, 35 millimeter recordings instead of the live kinescope. And, I think that's probably why it's one of the only shows from that time that has done so well in syndication, because there was legitimate copies of it available instead of shitty cinescope or kinescope versions of it.
Well, the funny thing is, part of that deal, I don't know if you had read this, when they decided to go to the 35 millimeter, Lucy and Desi said that they would pay the difference that it would cost. In return, they would own the copies.
80%. Yeah.
So because of that,
yep.
It pioneered, and it gave them, they also basically pioneered the idea of syndication and reruns.
Right. Yeah.
So because they owned all these tapes, they were able to air reruns. So many things that basically the 3-camera shoot sitcom, reruns, and syndication, this all really stemmed from this show, which is all pretty wild.
Not only that, but it was actually the first show, one of the first early television shows to be shot in Los Angeles. This wasn't shot in New York City.
Right.
And they were one of the first millionaires, TV stars.
Yeah. And they got there quick, too.
Yep.
What else is my last bit of info on this was, so because of the unions back then, there was the television and the radio union, and that was really it. And then there was a separate film. But because they wanted to record on 35 millimeter film, but as a television show, it muddied the waters between the unions, which is why Desi Arnaz had to use his, musical studio basically and retrofit it as a production company that would be able to handle film, but for a TV show, which is where Desi Lou Productions comes from. He had to basically make Desi Lou so that they could produce it, because they couldn't have film, TV, and music technically touch it. So, there's so much. We could talk probably for 2 hours just about the background of I Love Lucy and Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, but because they did so much for the start of television and sitcoms. But I guess we could probably get into the pilot of I Love Lucy too.
Yeah, we should probably talk about the show as well. Those two, they did so much they worked their asses off. And basically that's kind of what led to the demise of their relationship. But again, that's a whole other story for a different podcast.
I'm just really glad that they settled their differences before they died.
Literally moments before.
Yeah, right.
But to get into this show, it's weird because, again, shows are filmed and just, regardless of how they changed it, it's still an old show. So the general look, the way that shows are set up, they're just different from what we're used to now. Like even from, even when we do shows that are 30, 40 years old. So, you look at a show like this and basically the entirety of the show takes place inside the apartment with one exception, like in the middle. And you don't get a lot of scene cuts. It's basically, we're only really meeting the four people this whole episode.
Well, I mean, that kind of goes back to, so they used to broadcast live in like a play format. They switched to 35 millimeter, but they didn't really switch the format of the show. And so they're still acting it out in like a play style format. And they just got like these basic sets to work with. So that's what they did.
Yeah, nothing ages the show more than, hey, let's all have a cigarette.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I actually did want to mention was this, obviously, episode 1 that we always do first televised. It doesn't matter if there's unaired pilots, but this one did have a pilot that wasn't aired originally, and it was considered to be lost for years and years because the original tapes were given as a gift to like a performer that was involved in the show, and they didn't surface for decades later. And like they had to actually, when they got it, the first few minutes of the film were actually like damaged beyond repair. So they had the original guy who did like the intro re-record the beginning so they could finally air it again. But yeah, we don't do unaired pilots. So this is the first televised episode, which was recorded out of order. So this was the second recorded episode, but it ended up being the first aired. The first recorded episode ended up being number 4, which a lot of shows do that. And I guess that kind of goes into like when Ferg in the past has explained some of the rules of like how sitcoms should be self-containing episodes. In theory, most times you can go out of order and it won't be a big deal. Here, I'm sure it won't be a big deal. There are times where we've seen this in the past where it makes no sense that they went out of order, but...
What was it? Major Dad was the big one.
Yeah.
Coach was.
Oh, was it Coach?
That's what he meant.
Yeah.
Coach.
Your Coach is probably the biggest offender of this.
Yeah, to get right into it. So the episode starts, you see it's the black and white screen. You see the heart, the classic band music. The theme song is iconic.
Da-na-na-na-na-na-na.
Everyone knows it. And again, it's tough to not feel nostalgic the first time, you hear it again. But that's all you get. You don't get clips, nothing else. I mean, it's too early. I don't think there was much of that at the time. So you're just getting the title screen, I Love Lucy, with the band music.
Yeah.
I think this probably was crazy for the time.
I don't have a point of reference to say one way or another.
Well, it's also, I mean, it's the other thing, too. Every time that there was an intro, it was performed live. So this was like one of the first they could just kind of record it and keep using it.
And this was live studio audience, by the way. No canned laughter was ever used on this show. In fact, Desi had said in interviews that he's heard laughter from their show piped into other shows.
Yeah.
The fact that he can tell is kind of crazy, yeah.
Well, he said it in an interview. I think he was on Letterman. I had watched this in the past, and he was saying that, like you have a lot of people who go to multiple, like you have fans that kind of are consistent people. So there's distinct laughs that you can hear. Like, I guess Lucy's mother had a very distinct laugh. So you could hear it in the crowd. So things like that happen.
And she went to every taping, from my understanding.
Because that was like, I think they did, I forget what it was. There was maybe 300 people in the audience for every episode, and it was like a ticketed event.
Yeah, that's what it was, 300.
But yeah, so we get into the actual episode itself, and it starts where we're in the kitchen. We see Lucy and Ethel, and they're washing dishes in the kitchen. And then, of course, I mean, there's only a few people in the episode, so just to kind of go over it, Lucille Ball, and then in this case, we have Vivian Vance, who played Ethel. So the two girls are washing dishes, and then you have Ethel saying to Lucy, hey, my 18th anniversary is coming up on Monday, and I'd really like for you and Ricky to join us. I really want to go to a nightclub. Like, that's kind of been my dream for years, for us to go to a nightclub for our anniversary.
What a weird dream.
Well, it's a different time. You know what I mean? Like, going out is a different situation, and that's kind of, she lives a life at home, and that's what she wants. She just wants a night out at the nightclub.
But they know Ricky.
Yes, in theory.
Yeah, but Ricky hates being at the club. They talk about it in this episode.
That they could go to the club Ricky works at without Lucy and Ricky at times while he's performing. So, I mean, I get that.
It's just funny how the nightclub term has changed, too. It's like just seeing the four of them like go and like
clubbing,
tear it up to like Drake or something.
Yes, a nightclub then is a much more elegant situation. You're getting dressed up. You're enjoying a nice meal. There's live music and performance. It's not just loud, pulsating music going while you're drinking $20 mixed drinks.
Right.
But yeah, Ethel has this whole setup as to how they're going to be able to convince her husband to go along with this because he's not the type to want to do this. Which is kind of laying it out. That's when Lucy tells her, like, hey, like, Ricky doesn't like nightclubs either, despite the fact that he actually works at one. Ethel being surprised by that, she's like, yeah, Lucy's telling her, when I married him, I thought it was going to be a certain sort of lifestyle, but that's not, once the I do's happened, there are, a lot of things that we don't.
My first laugh.
I mean, these situations, that's kind of how it goes, right? I'm a single man, so you guys would be better at describing this stuff than me, but I think you're a little more, or in the early days of any relationship, more willing to compromise and do things that are out of your comfort level. And then the more settled you are and the more locked into the situation, the more you're unwilling to do things that you might not want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good assessment, Jay. Because all the time, usually when you date, you usually do something that you don't want to do.
You know what I found strange? Like, that it's like you invite somebody over to keep you like company, your friends. Hey, let's do the dishes together. It's like,
yeah, that is strange. That's like definitely a timed thing because that's like, I don't know. That was like they were just expected to do everything around the house, right? So, but that was essentially like, I don't know, like that was their day job. I mean, they didn't get paid, but like, so I guess why not, hang out with your friends while you do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously always going to be a really tricky conversation when you're talking like gender roles. Well, it's just like, obviously, whenever you have a gender role conversation, that's going to be a little tricky to have, especially when it's only 4 dudes. But
well, I didn't even mean it that way, though. I just meant as having your friend. It's like if I invited you over and I was like, Jay, clean my
No,
my
I'm not
floor,
saying
like,
you, but I'm about to say it. So to go into like what Nick was saying, this wasn't a different planet where the expectation was the male goes and works and the woman keeps the house. Also at a time where the one person's salary could facilitate, the house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the idea was, now that the female in the house is also working, like, you can't, make it so, hey, it's only fair that you're doing all the dishes and all the house stuff because I'm working. Like now that both are working, it's kind of both do everything. So essentially all male, female, whatever, everyone's doing twice the work now. What a wonderful world we've created.
except now we have dishwashers.
Yeah. I don't use my dishwasher.
Why?
I don't know. It's because if you just wash your dishes when you use them, you don't use that many at once. It's like it takes 2 minutes to do your dishes. If you let them pile up, then it's a problem.
But you don't have to let them pile up. You could put them in the dishwasher and turn it on. And
you run
clean.
it every 2 to 3 plates you have?
No, I wait till it fills up and then I do it. Yes.
So I saw a commercial that said you waste more water washing the dishes by hand than you do doing washes in the dishwasher.
And that commercial was selling pods for the dishwasher. I saw that one too.
Yeah.
But
True.
I agree. I think it does save. Like, my girlfriend has a dishwasher. I don't. We go through a lot of dishes, but and her dishwasher broke for a while, and I was so happy when they got a new one because you just get accustomed to it. You don't have to that pot that kind of got burnt with all the shit stuck to the bottom. You don't have to soak it, scrub it. You can soak it for a minute, you throw it in the dishwasher. These fucking chemicals that we're using nowadays in these dishwashers, they blast everything off. It's so easy. But yeah, Jay, to your point, if you're only using, a dish, a bowl, and a fucking set of silverware, then yeah, you don't need a dishwasher for that.
I mean, Jay, you should just go straight paper.
Depends on what I'm eating. You know what I mean? Sometimes I will use paper, but you can't use it for everything. But I don't know. Even if you're cooking a dinner, I just think it's easy to just get it out of the way, do the dishes, and be done with it.
Just eat the paper plates. 2 birds, 1 stone.
Yeah, but if you eat something like a steak, you can't use a paper plate because it always bleeds through it.
Break out the cardboard one.
Listen, I only have so many I have a type of paper plate. I don't have multiple layers depending on what I'm eating.
No, I always do that with my pots and pans. Because if you put your pots and pans in the dishwasher, I've read in the instructions on the pot that it ruins the non-stick.
Yes, the high heat from the dishwasher can ruin.
So I don't want
items.
to talk too long about dishwashers, but I will say this.
Why? This is riveting.
Yeah, I did see a video recently where someone proposed the ideas of having 2 dishwashers. So essentially,
yes,
you fill it up and you use it, and then once they're done, you just leave them in there and you use that as storage, and then you fill the other one. So like essentially, that's your storage is they're in the dishwasher. So you have 2 side by side. One's always full of clean, one's always full of dirty.
Why don't you just put the plates away? I don't understand. That's your storage.
Because then it's less steps. They're always in there. You're just, you just transfer them from one to the other at all times. There's always a clean and a dirty. I thought it was a great video. It was articulated way better.
Hold on.
Full-fledged idea.
I need this explained to me better.
I'll have to find the video because he articulated it in a way that was very smart. When I heard it, I was like, oh, that sounds really cool.
So you went from not wanting a dishwasher to wanting 2 dishwashers.
I don't think I need any, but I would rather have 2 than 1. But I would rather just use none.
I saw this. I think you shared it in our chat, Jay.
I probably did. My current dishwasher is just full of clean glassware that I don't have room for in the cabinets.
Yeah. Mine is used as storage as well.
If I needed to use it to wash dishes, it would be inconvenient.
Put my dirty plates in mine until it fills up, and then I wash them.
You know what? I never understood people, and I think a good amount of people actually do it. People who use their microwave as storage. Like some people, like you open the microwave and it's just like all their bread. What the fuck are you doing? Like, this is your microwave. Why is all your bread in here?
I use my microwave way too much for that.
Yeah. Some people also use the stove as like pan storage.
I have to do that with some of my pans.
I do that too.
I think everybody does that. Yeah. Who has room for all those?
And then you guys also up the same thing, the thing that you forget to check.
And you end up like melting something in your oven.
Yes.
In any event, we've been talking about washing machines for a bit. So to go back into the actual episode, the thing that they decide to do to convince these guys to take them out to the nightclub is when they re-enter the room that they're in, they're going to act super lovey-dovey to them and like kind of butter them up. And by doing so, the guys are going to kind of be putty and do whatever they want. That's the theory here.
That's a good theory.
I mean, Lucy says it. You catch more bees with honey than vinegar.
Yeah, I think everyone we're always subject to that, right? Everyone can be sweetened up a little bit sometimes.
I don't want any bees.
So
I want boobies.
You could argue that this is a pretty basic writing plot. I don't know how else to explain it, but then you remember that they're probably still one of the first people to have done it.
Yeah, right?
yes, they're not
it's
stealing
like
from anything yet.
everything's original.
And a lot of this stuff, I mean, when you really look at it, it's really like the stories are very simple in nature, but it's very performance driven.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, it's almost like they were on Broadway or like vaudeville before this, right?
I know William Frawley was, but I don't know about the rest of them. Maybe Lucy briefly.
Lucy did a lot of film, and then she was doing a radio show, which is how this show came about. So she was doing a radio show for a few years, and then they basically wanted to make a televised version of that show. And then that was kind of the whole thing. And she said, if she was to do it, she wanted her actual husband to play her husband. And that was a whole thing too, because Desi Arnaz, Cuban, the studio felt that they weren't a believable couple. And it was like, but they are a couple. They're a real couple.
Yeah.
But that was also, I mean, again, for the early 50s to just show, it's funny now. It's like, you don't even think like, I don't know, her being just white and him Cuban is like even super like interracial. It is, but it's not like jarring.
I think it's just more jarring because of Cuba at the time with the whole communism thing.
Oh, true.
It was. I don't think it was a race thing. I think it was specifically a Cuban thing.
It was a lot of it was just a mixed relationship that wasn't seen on television at the time. I mean, you gotta remember too, we don't see it in this episode, but this is still, they're keeping couples in separate beds on a lot of shows. So it's a different time.
Well, they push the beds together every once in a while because little Ricky was born.
Yeah.
They actually use the gap in between the beds.
I don't know if it'll ever really come up, but Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz have been married for 11 years already at this point. Lucy does say that she hasn't used her book in 11 years, which is weird because that's exactly how long they had been married. I would not have guessed that that's how long they've been married at this point in their lives.
Yeah, he was fairly young.
They look really young in comparison to Ethel and Fred.
Well, here's the thing.
I don't think Ethel looked that old.
No, but Ethel looked the same, but Fred is
65 in this. Fred was born in the 1880s.
That's the thing that I thought was weird too, because like they're always positioned as this old frumpy couple. And yeah, that may have been the case with Fred, but Ethel was only 2 years older than Lucy in real life.
Yeah, and I think Lucy, she was older than you would see somebody, like she was like 40, I think, during this. If not late 30s.
Lucy was?
Yeah, she was 40 when this came out, yeah. Right around. She was born in 1911. But yeah, Vivian Vance, who played Ethel, she was born in 1909. And then you had Desi, who was only like 6 years younger than Lucy. Yeah, it was Fred. Like he was the only one that was
Fred's old as fuck. Yeah,
and then to just throw her in there and be like, you're old by default because you're with this guy, but they're like 30-year age difference.
But then Fred talks shit about Ethel like this, like she's some old fat lady, and she's not. She's relatively good looking, especially for Fred.
22-year difference, I think, between the two of them. Yeah. So
they historically did not get along either.
This is old man Fred with his pants up to his boobs.
The man was born in the 1880s.
Yeah. You know what, too? And he will forever be my favorite character on this show. The second I saw him, I started laughing.
Me too.
He had probably a couple of my favorite laughs. We'll get into it as we talk. Actually, the next scene we see is Fred and Ricky sitting in the living room. And now we're getting the mirrored version of that conversation where now Fred's presenting to Ricky kind of the similar situation, only he's talking about his anniversary as join me in the commemoration of an 18-year-old tragedy. And he wants them to join as well, only his idea, instead of going out to the clubs, is to go to a nice steakhouse and go to the fights.
That sounds like a good night.
It does sound like a good night. Monday night's a weird night for a boxing match, though, isn't it?
They didn't have much back then.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
It's weird. The thing I kept wondering about, and this is obviously going to come up a lot more because the whole episode is them kind of debating over this stuff. But like, isn't there a world where they can go out for their anniversary? Like the whole plot, they can go out and just do something regular for their anniversary and just separate one night, and they can go to the club and they can go to the fights, and it shouldn't be a big deal, right?
They should have combined the dates and had gone for the steak and then the club.
But it's not even that. You guys could just do those things without your significant others one night.
Another night, yeah.
That's kind of the only problem with some of these shows, like the older shows, is like a lot of the situation and resolves are all like, none of this should be a real problem, but here we are.
They're making 75 cents an hour, Jay.
And they're old and probably retired, so they don't have a lot of income. So maybe they can only go out once in a while.
I did the math. 75 cents an hour at a 40-hour week is like $30, I think.
Yeah, but their rent was 60, you said?
Yeah. Right, but I mean, so they're making $120 a month at minimum wage, and they're paying half of that towards rent. I guess, yeah, I mean, if you're making any more than minimum wage, you're actually doing all right.
Yeah, and he's a band leader and stuff, so like, odds are they can afford a night at the
Lucy and Ricky can, but probably not Fred and Ethel.
Maybe.
We don't know what Fred does.
We don't know what Fred does.
I assume he's retired.
But no, Fred, this is not part of the episode, so I'm just cluing you in. But if you remember, Fred and Ethel own the building.
They're the landlords.
Oh, I didn't remember
that. So
they
collect all the rent. So they're doing pretty well, actually. But Fred's just a cheap fuck all the time.
Now, the other kind of plot hole here in this episode, if we're going to analyze it like we do, why do you want Lucy and Desi to be at your wedding anniversary? Like, not for nothing.
Because they're best friends.
Yeah, but you guys are my best friends. I don't want you.
But you like your wife.
You like your wife and being around her.
Hey, first of all, wait, I'm stomping that now, all right? He loves Ethel, all right? That's just their cute little repertoire.
Yeah.
You know? Don't be shitting on Fred or Ethel. I mean, they're obviously fun because this young couple wants to be friends with these old people.
Also, I don't know what accent that was, but it wasn't like an Americanized version, but instead of repertoire, you said repertoire?
Repertoire.
Ratatouille.
It's French, all right? I just watched Ratatouille.
Yeah. That's how the real French say it. Yeah. But yeah, the guys basically, well, like I said, this whole conversation is very mirrored. So now we're having Ricky saying basically everything Lucy's saying, it's, well, you know what we'll do is we're going to butter them up. And then when they come in, we're going to be lovey-dovey towards them. And then that's going to make them, be more susceptible to want to go to these fights. So both sides are coming into the situation with the same plan. And when this is said, that's when the girls enter the living room from the kitchen. And you're just seeing all of this kind of come into play now. So everyone's being super lovey-dovey to their significant other, kind of with the exception of Fred. So, you have, it's like, oh, you big, handsome man. Oh, you big Latin lover. Oh, you gorgeous, exciting woman. And then he just goes, I'll pass.
He can't do it. He can't muster it up.
But he's trying. He tries to follow the lead, and then you have them after you with the sitting and stuff. And then Lucy ends up on Ricky's lap. And then when it's trying to be emulated on the other side, somehow Ethel ends up sitting first because as they're both saying, oh, you take the seat, and he just goes, I said sit down. When he lost it and yelled at her, it shouldn't be funny, right? But it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And then he sits on her.
He ends up on her lap, yeah. And they eventually switch spots. And then we have their Philip Morris cigarette break that comes up right after that. So everyone's just enjoying a nice smoke together.
And lighting each other's cigarettes.
Yeah, and this is a time where, not that smoking is gone, people still smoke, but cigarettes were, this was like dessert at the time.
Even Fred Flintstone smoked cigarettes.
Right, cigarettes were not meant to be consumed 20 a day, right? You get the box of cigarettes, you go home, you put them in the nice wooden box or your carrier or whatever. You have one after dinner or a few throughout the day, whatever, and then I don't know what happened. People just started fucking pounding full packs a day.
Those cigarettes are such a major point of the whole plot too. It's like Chekhov's gun.
I wonder if I don't know, and this would be probably something you could easily look up, but I wonder if all the addictive stuff, like the nicotine levels and stuff, were brought into a higher level as the years passed to get people to continue.
They were probably
smoking more.
10 times worse back then because there was no filters.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure they did change, but it is interesting to note that when in the next season or the season after that, I forget, when Lucy is pregnant, Philip Morris was very strict about her not smoking during any of the pregnancy-related episodes.
Well, that's good.
Which is, you wouldn't think that in the 50s that they really give a shit, but apparently even back then they knew you shouldn't do it.
Probably wanted to avoid any potential lawsuit,
It wasn't she didn't smoke, it was just they didn't show it in the pregnancy episode.
Exactly, yeah.
Just like the idea of, if there's ever anything that comes up and then they say, well, you promoted on this show that you're smoking while pregnant. So during the scene, as the, buttering of each other kind of is going on and on, it finally comes up the conversation of, oh, you guys look so handsome when you're in tuxedos. I think that's the most, nice a man could look is in a tuxedo. And then Fred kind of says, oh, unless he's wearing boxing trunks. And Ricky's like, oh, yeah, and, speaking of boxing, nothing more exciting than a ringside seat. And
real
then
smooth
Lucy
guys.
starts with the Copacabana thing, brings up the Copacabana. Now the two of them are just laying it on the line now. So now they're both saying, hey, listen, the anniversary's on Monday. We're going to the boxing matches. No, we're going to the Copacabana. This conversation completely being had by Ricky and Lucy, while Fred and Ethel are just sitting on the couch looking back and forth and have no say in what's going on until it gets so escalated to the point where they're at a standstill and Lucy's saying, you know what, fine, then Ethel wants a divorce. And you just see Fred smile from ear to ear. And she's like, wait, no, I don't.
Yeah, this was my favorite scene in the whole episode, was them fighting for them.
It was, again, Fred kills it. It's the little things he does, his,
Well, he had over 100 acting credits before this. So he is the most decorated actor on the set right now.
He also had 20 plus years on everybody. So.
Yeah, he was also born before electricity. Yeah. So they just did plays by candlelight when he was acting.
And then, the arguing is going on. And then you get again when Fred finally yells, he goes, wait a minute, will you? And he gets everyone to stop. And he's talking about, how, we're going to have to just put this to a vote then. And Ricky's like, well, don't we kind of know how the vote's going to end up? It's like, well, we'll run it anyways. So it's like, all right, show of hands for the boxing. Two hands go up. And then show of hands for the Copacabana. And then he goes 1, 2, 3. Lucy's standing there with both hands up, and he doesn't catch it at first, which was actually like a really subtle joke that I thought landed pretty well.
That's classic Lucy too, like as the character, like that's very, very much her, and
found a way to kind of outsmart him in the moment, just real subtle.
Yeah.
And he plays along with it too. That's the funny part. And he goes, "Oh well, I guess we're going to the Copacabana."
Wait a minute.
What's fair is fair. And then it just kind of turns into like, again, well, we're going to go to the fights. Well, we're going to go to the Copacabana. And now what I didn't understand was the whole idea of like, well, who are you going to go with? Well, we'll find dates. Why do they need to have dates to go? Like this whole thing.
Time.
Yeah, I think that's just the thing of the time.
Are they not allowed in without guys? Like, is that?
I don't think. I don't think it was about being allowed in, but maybe just. I don't know, honestly. Maybe it was frowned upon.
I don't think it was that they needed dates. I think they wanted to be fine. We'll go with other people to make them jealous or want to.
Sure, but it was just like the way that it was all handled after. The fact that they said, well, we're going to go on, with our dates. And they're like, fine. And it's like, well, did you just say that your wives can go on dates? Like, it's just like, it was one of those things where, again.
It's a giant game of chicken. They're playing with each other.
I get it, but just. I felt like there was you take the sitcom out of it, and there's like an obvious line that's being crossed once you decide that it's okay to bring dates with you.
Well, this is when people were prim and proper, Jay. A date was a date. Wasn't no necking or anything.
Well, I think as we see later, there is some necking. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, there was never a time where people were that prim and proper. It was just presented different to the public.
Right.
You're wrong.
I'm actually not wrong. If you know anything from this era, it's when cheating was running rampant. That's all every guy in this era ever did was just cheat.
And this was if you know anything about their relationship, Desi cheated on Lucy all the time, which breaks my heart because they're such a lovely couple.
Remember, that's Desi, not Ricky doing that. Ricky Ricardo would never.
It's true, but he could.
But yeah, so Lucy's saying, oh, I know just the guys. And Ethel's like, well, I want to know who. And she whispers, in her ear. And like, oh, okay, well, fine. I guess we better head downstairs then so we can plan our night or whatever. And then the guys leave. And Ethel's like, what are those names that you said to me? It sounded like you said Little Boy Blue and Peter Cottontail. She's like, yeah, that is who I said. And now they have to figure out, how they're going to go about finding two single men to take them out on a date. And then they would just like, it turned into like two handsome single men to just, two men, a guy and a dog. Like they realized that it's going to be slim pickings. And that's when the idea of bringing that address book comes out, and she's like, I know, I'm just going to go and I'll call all my old boyfriends. Now, is that an overstep? If you're going to go on a date to choose someone that you actually had a prior relationship with?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they still had the same number.
Well, back then their number was 6. Or like 11.
I thought that stuff was weird. Like the first number she had was like Butterfield 89970. So do you have to declare the area because you're going through like I know it's different times. So you're going through the operator. So you have to say the area and then the number.
Well, it's always changing. Think about when we were young. It was just 7 digits to call somebody. You didn't have to need the area code.
We didn't need to dial it. We had it, but it wasn't necessary unless you're out of your area code.
I remember being so confused when they first instituted that.
Me too. But back then, you probably only needed the 4 digits.
Because I remember, like, when we were younger, like, I had an uncle who lived in a different area code. So, like, I was familiar with sometimes you had to dial all 10. But then when it was like, when we called one another and all of a sudden we had to add the 617, I was like, that's so bizarre.
Yeah, that was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
You don't realize how old you are until you talk about things like that and go, wow.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny is I can still remember almost everybody's number.
Yeah, I know all your house numbers by heart.
Yep.
Say Jay's right now. No, I'm just kidding.
My mom actually just like stopped the house phone, and it was like I get that you don't need it, but I also hate that number doesn't work anymore.
Me too. We just got rid of ours.
I remember yours, Jay, because you had the stupid rhyme on your answering machine.
That was my dad thinking he was super clever. That was our third house number, though. I remember my very first one.
Yeah, he had a rhyme.
It ended with a 2. I don't want to say the number because I don't want people to call.
You hear the beep, you know what to do.
That was the thing that my dad said that part at the end. You've reached blah 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 2. When you hear the beep, you know what to do. That was his thing.
You know what? It was effective because I remember it 30 years later.
That was the hardest part of cutting the cable, was getting rid of a number that was like around for 30 years. And go, wow, that's just part. It's like, it's just weird. It's like cutting out part of your identity in this weird way.
Yeah, I mean, it's meaningless, but it's like still something that was so part of your life at one point too.
Anyways, as Lucy's starting to go through her phone book, we cut back to Ricky and Fred, who are in the downstairs apartment, Fred and Ethel's apartment now. And they're kind of going over the night and how they're going to, go to Charlie's and they're going to get these thick steaks and then they're going to get raw onions all over them, which I feel like is only appealing to Nick.
Hell yeah. That would be awesome. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't do that, but I wouldn't, like, if that's how it came out, I'd be like, okay.
Raw onions, though?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like raw, caramelized onions, I get.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, raw onions.
I've warmed up a little bit towards them. Actually, me and Ferg were away the last few days, and we went to a place and got burgers, and we happened to order the same burger. And onions were not listed in the description, but there was a ton of caramelized onions on the bottom of the burger for whatever reason. I think they just made them wrong. I'm at a point now in my life where I can just go, oh, that's fine, and I'll eat it.
I mean, caramelized onions are pretty fantastic.
I scraped them all off.
I bet you did, you loser. You missed out on a ton of flavor.
No, because I still had bacon and eggs and all the other delicious things on my burger.
Yeah, there was a lot of other good stuff on the burger still.
But also, like, you think about, like, a burger or a steak and cheese, like, raw onion will go on those. So I guess, in theory, putting them on a steak isn't the weirdest thing. It's unorthodox, for sure.
In theory, yes.
Even if I didn't hate onions, I wouldn't want raw ones.
Yeah.
I love raw onion, personally, but, I mean...
Yeah, that's a step too far for me. I don't like raw onion.
You know what? I'm going to try the steak and raw onion. I'll report back.
I can't trust you. You like gross things.
What do I like that's gross?
Raw onions.
That's not gross. You just don't like raw onion.
I love olives.
Oh my god, you guys with the fucking olives.
We've had
You're
that conversation.
anti-chicken on
I don't have
pizza.
the same conversations over and over, but we've had a lot of we have different food preferences. But my thing is, Nick, I feel like you like things that aren't necessarily like the standard either. But when I like something, it's weird. If I like something that's pretty
What do I
basic,
like that's out of the ordinary?
Onion pizza.
Onion pizza's up there.
Okay, I'll give you that. That's out of the ordinary for sure. I'm also not ordering that every night, but I would eat it if it showed up, Yeah, you're thinking there's nothing coming to your mind. I like normal shit. You just don't like normal shit.
No, because like the things I do like aren't that weird.
Right, but we're talking about the things you don't like.
Pickles, which are gross.
They're not gross, dude. You're missing out. There's so many varieties, too. It's like, you can't say you don't like pickles. Like, there could be a pickle that you do like.
I do. It's called a cucumber, and it wasn't dipped in vinegar.
I'm telling you,
for a
I
fucking
think
year.
a Grillo's spicy pickle, I think you would actually like that.
Spicy pickles are fantastic.
They are. They're really, really good.
I'm Team J on this. They're disgusting, but he'll forever take the brunt of that.
I can't imagine living life with such boring shit on your plate all the time.
I'm sorry, Mr. Anti-Buffalo Chicken.
I'm not anti-buffalo chicken. I'm anti-buffalo chicken on pizza. Okay, I love buffalo chicken.
Well, you're missing out because that's
with
delicious.
Some buffalo chicken wings all day. Don't put it on my fucking pizza.
I had clam pizza yesterday.
I know that's gross. Why are you putting pizza on your clam on your pizza?
Why are you putting
That's
pizza
so
on your
weird.
clam?
Like, and I said this in our chat. I said, I can't believe that you have the audacity to like talk shit about something as basic as a pickle and then throw a bunch of clams on your fucking pizza. Like, it's
So I didn't make a pizza and go, what can I put on this? And here's some clams. I was at a restaurant and they offered a clam pizza.
We have people that probably listen from Connecticut, but that's a weird Connecticut thing.
It is a weird Connecticut thing. And I will say this. I don't hate clams or pizza. Like, but I'm not sure I would like the combination. Having said that, I have never had it, so I will leave it open.
You like shrimp scampi on pizza? You ever do a
I
shrimp
love
scampi
shrimp
pizza?
scampi pizza, actually, yeah.
There you go. I will say, having had the clam one, I liked it. Not my favorite. I probably wouldn't do it again. I'd do shrimp over the clams.
You said it tasted dirty.
All right, behind the curtain here.
But I said I don't want to tangent too far because this has nothing to do with anything that happened in the episode. But what I said was sometimes clams inherently have that like dirt taste to it, like they just do.
Yeah, and knowing that, I want to throw it on my pizza. So you will knowingly eat something that tastes like dirt, but a pickle is off the table. You're so fucking weird, dude.
It's the vinegar
You're
I don't
so
like.
weird.
What about the little pickles?
I know what he means about the dirt, because the only time I ever eat clams is if I'm eating clam chowder, and I've gotten the sand crunch a few times when eating chowder.
But I don't think he's talking about the sand crunch. He's talking about it tasting dirty.
See, I've never had that experience with clams, but I don't, like I said, I don't eat them that often.
I like clam chowder. I like fried clams.
You ever do like linguine and clam sauce?
No.
No.
Occasionally.
Not in a long time if I have, but
All right, well, if you ever eat clams that aren't battered and fried, they have a different taste. So
Everything I eat is battered and fried, Jason.
but anyways, to reel it back, they're kind of going over the night, and now we get this. I think Ricky can't stop thinking about the idea of, you think that the girls are really going to go on dates with these guys? Like, maybe we should go and just get a couple dates and just to watch over them to make sure that nothing weird happens.
So it's not a woman thing because they wanted to get dates to go too.
Yeah, well, they're like, well, we need to go on dates. That wasn't the plan for the fights.
No, but what I'm saying is Lucy and Ethel needing dates to go isn't a woman thing. Like, it's not that they wouldn't be allowed in the club without dates.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So because Ricky and Fred were both gonna get dates to go and watch them.
I think this is just more illogic to go with the other illogical stuff for the sake of the point of the story.
I'll say this didn't go where I thought it was gonna go, because I just thought that, like, oh, so they're gonna end up going to the club anyway.
So the thing was, if you're so worried about them going with other guys, instead of also going to the club only with different people, and now you're all at the club just spying on them,
Just go with them.
wave the flag and say, oh, you know what? Let's just all go to the club together. Then.
Well, then because there wouldn't be a TV episode.
But yeah, but there's a lot of the stuff in this episode where you go like, it's just meant to be what it is, and I get it. But when we deep dive, I'm like, this thing is so riddled with holes in illogical storytelling.
Don't worry, we're gonna get to the thing that I hate the most coming up soon. So this is nothing.
So now they're in the same predicament. Now they need to find some dates. So Fred's asking Ricky, well, what about your address book? He's like, oh, I burned it. He's like, you burned it? He's like, yeah, like when I got married, Lucy told me that was like a tradition. When you get married, you have to burn your address book.
You know, it's funny. At first, I just thought, oh, he's a good guy. He burnt it, and then he told the Lucy story.
It's like, you could have made a fortune for that book. He's like, A alone was worth $100.
A lot of money in the 50s.
Which is a lot of smackaroos then.
It's almost 2 months rent.
Yeah. He gets this idea like, oh, I know that there was a girl he knows, and she's a singer at the Starlight Roof. He'll call her. She's married, but she knows every girl in town. So she'll be able to set them up with a couple girls. Then we cut back to the girls, Lucy and Ethel, who are at Lucy's house. And you see that Lucy's been going through the entire phone book. She just hung up with a guy named Wagner. So now she's made it all the way to W. She's called every guy in this phone book, and everybody's, just in a different place in life. They're married, they have kids, they're not going to take her out on a date. And they get to like the last one, Sam Zaba, whatever he was. I can't remember the name.
Yeah, I forget what it was.
But it was a Z name. So, and she's like, oh, no one would marry him. And then she calls, and then sure as shit, like, the kid's on the phone, and no, don't put your dad on the phone. What's their resolve now that they know that, no one in the address book's going to work? She's going to call that same girl that works at the Starlight Roof. She knows every man in town. So this whole episode is mirrored conversations back and forth. It kind of shows you how perfect they are for one another because they're so like-minded.
Yeah, right.
So when she's calling this girl Ginny or whatever, she's trying to tell her the situation. As soon as she starts explaining it, Lucy finds out, oh, Ricky just called me a minute ago looking for 2 girls to go on dates with. And you get a lot of, you're not hearing the conversation. You're only hearing one end of it. So you're hearing Lucy going, they did, they didn't. They did, they didn't. They did. And then Ethel finally chimes in, well, did they or didn't they?
I thought that was funny, yeah.
And she tells her, yeah, they just called looking for dates themselves. They're like, all those dirty two-timers. Oh, wait a minute, I have an idea. So now she tells Ginny, tell Ricky and Fred that you have 2 girls for them and that they're going to meet them at Ricky's house at 8 o'clock, but we're going to be the girls that show up.
She could have just got her way if she said have them meet at the club.
Yes, I would have said yes. Obviously, you meet them at the club, and then they can get dressed up and just meet them at the club.
This was weird. Yes, I agree.
But I think the show is
they're breaking new ground here, you know?
Yes, and the show is definitely showcasing Lucille Ball's comedic acting. But yes, all logic is you trick them into going and meeting them at the club. The 4 of them are all there. Oh, Lucy, you tricked us, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But to prolong it, we're doing this instead. So now you see the 2 guys on Monday night of the anniversary, just waiting in their tuxes for these girls to show up. And then they're like, eagerly waiting and they're talking. And I don't know if you noticed at this point, and I don't know if you guys had read this again about Fred or the actor that played Fred. What's his name again? William Frawley. William Frawley before this show had bad alcoholism issues. So it was part of his contract, that he obviously couldn't be drinking. So in these early episodes, you'll catch him. If you look at his hands are in his pockets a lot.
Oh, he's got the DTs bad.
He has bad shakes.
Yeah.
So this whole scene when he's on the couch, you see his hands shaking like crazy. And that's because he's going through like detox from alcohol.
Well, that's strange. In the scene before when they're down there, he's drinking a beer. Well, they at least pour it.
I thought the same thing. And I don't think they had fake beer in the 50s. Like they were either drinking like ginger ale or like.
Yeah, it's also black and white, so you can't see exactly what's in the cup. So there's ways around it.
Also for this, like they would do like the girls would wear like neon green lipstick because red would come out too dark. So like knowing that they would be in black and white, they would look ridiculous sometimes. We just can't tell because of the black and white, but they had to use different colors of certain things because it would pop better on black and white.
That's
screen.
like the whole Frankenstein's monster thing.
Right, yeah.
What? All right, Stone Cold, to clue you in. Yeah, Frankenstein's monster was green only for how it would look on black and white. The intention wasn't to make a green monster. So while these guys are talking, we finally hear the doorbell go off. They have like the buzzer. And Ricky goes to open the door. And then when the door opens up, we see Lucy and Ethel who are in costumes. And this is enough to fool the guys, I guess.
All right. So nothing bothers me more than this. This is Scooby-Doo dressed as a human and people thinking it's a human being. You can tell. Oh,
it's just a lot of suspended disbelief. Also, Ethel killed me. And she's just fucking one-eyed, cross-eyed, resting her head on the fucking thing.
But she's not even like in a costume.
Died.
Like Lucy at least has like black pigtails and a missing tooth. Ethel's just Ethel in like a big coat with her head on an umbrella. Like that's it.
And a cane.
I don't know why it was so funny though.
I hated this, but I laughed so hard at this whole scene.
It's funny. Just give them better costumes so you can't see Lucy's entire face. Because that's clearly Lucy.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, as the scene goes on too, I'm like, you don't know.
Well, give him like fake glasses, a fake nose, something like a little bit more than this. That's the thing.
Phantom of the Opera mask.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and it's like the second the door opens and they're like, oh, who are these ugly girls that are here to go on dates with us? Like,
I think it's just kind of implied that these costumes are meant to be more convincing. They're just not, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's obviously what they're going for. I'm trying
I get
not
we're
to
supposed
like
to just play along here and it's like, oh, look at them being funny and in costume, but when you see it, you're just like, come on. Like, there's no way. It's their wives.
You're going to be off-put by Lucy, who's beautiful, and she still look good.
Yeah, I feel like nobody ever talks about that. Like, she obviously has her, place in history, but she's also gorgeous, and I feel like that you never really hear that about her. Just that she's funny and a great actress and stuff.
Yeah. Why don't people focus on her looks and just talk about her talent all the time? That's fucked up.
No, you know what I mean. It's just not like when you hear Lucy talked about, like when you hear some other people nowadays talked about, they're like, oh, she's so sexy or whatever.
I mean, I think she was looked at in that way, but also I feel like at that time too, it was more about like the blonde bombshells and stuff like that. So not that she wasn't attractive, but she wasn't like that conventional.
And she's so goofy too, it kind of takes away from it.
But that's not how her acting style was up until this.
I think her first gig was in modeling though, wasn't it?
And she did a lot of serious roles in acting. Like that was her upbringing. This was a far departure from what you were used to seeing her doing. My mom does nothing but watch old movies 24/7. So I grew up seeing a lot of like different films she was in, like just as a serious role. And it's like, it's so weird because you're mainly used to her being goofy all the time.
You're just watching when she's going to stop putting the chocolate in her shirt. Like,
yeah. But yeah, these girls walk in and the guys are very upset because this is not what they were expecting. It's two girls that are not as pretty as they were hoping for.
I love that they lie and say they're not them.
No, yeah, they're Simon and Elmer.
When Ricky goes, this one's for you, Fred. And then the other one comes and he's like, this one's also for you, Fred.
Yeah, I
fucking died.
Oh my God.
And then Lucy, who's Yunsi, I think, is like, no. Like, I'm going to be here with this fellow over here. And like heads over to Ricky.
She's so animated too during this. Like, it's not just like she is going 100 miles an hour as this character.
Oh,
it's wild.
Especially when she dances. She killed me.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get out of this now. It's like, oh, there was an emergency change of plans. You know, we're not going to be able to take you out. She's going in for the kiss, and she gets him like over the table, gives him a kiss. And I guess by all means, he's in his brain, he just cheated.
He's pushing her away.
He's trying.
Yeah.
He never once says, no, the mistake is we're married. I thought that was going to be the out.
Could have used that as well, too.
Yeah.
And he's trying to run away. There's a point where like she like throws him on the couch and he falls off. Like the physical comedy in that part of the scene, I thought was really good.
Ragdolls him a couple times. Yeah. He takes a good bump.
Let's neck.
That's probably, some of that probably has to go alongside of the fact that they are real life married and there's a comfort level that you can attach yourself to.
For sure, yeah.
That was my problem, though. If you kiss your wife, you should know kind of right then and there. Like, she's on top of him. You know what I mean? Like, not to be weird.
He should have known the second they walked in. We discussed that.
Yeah, their faces aren't changed enough to not know. But yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously when you're at a point where you're physically making contact.
Wait a minute. These are Lucy's boobs. Oh, no.
Babaloo. That's a booby bongo joke, ladies and gentlemen.
Booby bongo.
Isn't that one of the Four Horsemen?
Oh, come on. Bongo McMichaels is not doing well.
Stop.
Booby Bongo McMichael.
So now Fred's trying to say, hey, you know, it's past his bedtime. He's got rehearsals in the morning. And he's like, oh, yeah, I have rehearsals. It's like, oh, what are you, an actor fella? No, a dancer fella? No, I'm a singer fella. And she's like, all right, sing something for me. He's like, oh, no, I couldn't. He's like, okay, well, let's neck instead. He's like, okay, I'll sing. He takes his guitar out. He performs this song. He sings and plays the guitar, a song called Guadalajara. And basically does like the whole song. It was like
Ricky has I don't know if it was like a contract thing, but he has like a full performance in almost every episode.
Yeah, maybe that was like a way of winning them over where he wasn't what the studio wanted. Maybe he had to like showcase his talents a little bit.
Yeah, and when you think about the fact that his music studio is the one producing the show, that maybe he was like, fuck it, I'm going to get my shit in.
And that's the thing too. It's like the not to jump ahead, you know, the famous line. But it is my like most of my memories of this show as a whole are in the club.
The Tropicana?
Yeah.
I can't believe I remembered that.
I like as the song's going on, it's that I part, and like Fred's trying to get away from the girls, and now he's joining in on the song and singing with them. Something about Fred singing with them I thought was really funny.
Yep.
I wish I knew the exact line because I would just butcher it. But like towards the end, he says a line, and then Lucy in character repeats the line and like dances along, and it was really funny, like visually when she did that.
Very slapsticky, yeah.
Her like, butchering the the line because it's not in her native tongue.
Well, not only that, but like the under britches, like she's doing like the full blown dance with like under britches, and Ethel too.
They do like the can like flip up with the dress.
Yeah. And by the way, Fred's got some pipes.
He does, yeah.
He sings in a good amount of episodes too. Him and Ethel like were performers.
He's also, yeah, I mean, like he's a stage actor. You have to,
This is a time where most movies are like musicals. Like if you're an actor, you also sing. That's like also in your bag of tricks.
Right.
When he finally finishes the song, Lucy's trying to get back to the making out, and it's like, oh no, let's have a cigarette. Again, thank you, Philip Morris. And she's like, oh yeah, I know where they are, and she like heads over and grabs the cigarettes, and that's when all of a sudden Ricky goes, wait a minute, like. And by her knowing where the cigarettes are located is when it finally clicks with him. So he's like, excuse me for a moment. I'm going to grab a glass of water. Fred, will you come with me? And they head into the kitchen. And that's when first Fred's like, now's our chance. And he goes to like run out the back door. Ricky's telling him like, no. Like that's those girls. That's Lucy and Ethel in there. He's like, no, I know my own wife. And he's like, I'm telling you, go look. And he cracks the door open. Like there's like that little kind of like, what are those, the little like swinging doors for the separator?
The accordion style, like shades.
He's looking into the living room and he's getting a better look at Ethel. And he's like, oh, that is Ethel. And like, he's yelling. And like, again, it's one of those, she's 2 feet away and he's yelling out the door. Like there's no way she can hear him.
Nothing has changed. So he looks through and sees, that is Ethel. It's like, you didn't notice before.
So now it's, well, what are we going to do now? And Ricky's like, oh, I know what we'll do. We're going to go in there and now we're going to act the way they're acting and we're going to be all over the girls. So they head back in and Lucy's like, oh, you ready to, what she said, I've been waiting to pinch a little woo with you, Hog Center style.
I have no idea what she's saying.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what that means, but he's like, okay, only I thought we do it Latin style. It's like Latin style. And then he goes to like, go in at her. And now they're the ones running away. The girls are like, what are you guys doing? Because they're being aggressive, trying to make out. As they're about to flee out the door is when Ricky goes, call us again, Lucy. Fred's like, nice to have met you, Ethel. And they're like, oh, you guys knew it was us. And it's like, oh, you had us for a minute. And they're all, everyone's just being, oh, you got us. The way they all the resolve is, you tricked us. Well, you tricked us too.
It's so like dun.
Yeah, it all ends. Now everyone's happy now.
I mean, I kind of appreciate the simplicity, if I'm being honest.
I will say this, it bothered me until you get the last scene. And you're like, oh, so it didn't all
so we'll
end
get
up.
there in a second. So I also they explained, by the way, the only reason we even called for a couple dates is because we're going to spy on you guys to make sure nothing happened when you were on your dates. Which again, well, why didn't you just take us? Like that, that could have been the resolve. But Ricky's like, you know what? Just to call everything even, like, why don't you girls get changed and we'll take you out and we'll celebrate the Mertz's anniversary. And then we get the the clothes and it you have this the heart screen again and a little bit of music. And I was like, that's the end? Nope. You get that one little scene where it fades back in, and now you see it pan over, and they're all sitting at the fights, and the guys are cheering on.
Yeah.
And then Lucy says to Ethel, "Happy anniversary, Ethel," and then it cuts out. And I do like that we figured out how
they took them to the fucking fights.
There's a nice unexpected button on the end. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially on the way that like this show's kind of formatted, you don't think the guys are ever going to get the win at the end, so it's kind of surprising.
Well, it was the 50s, to be fair.
Yeah, true.
It's just fun. They're super dressed up too, just in the audience.
Well, that's when like you got dressed in a suit to go fishing. I mean, to be fair, like that's just the time.
Yeah, but Lucy and Ethel are in like evening gowns with like scarves and stuff, and they're just in the fight with a bunch of guys. Like, hey, hit him on the head. Yeah,
hey there, fella. There's old Curly.
Yeah, no, I just this show is always. I guess the girls are often put in situations where they're made to look stupid. It happens a lot. So it was a fun resolve. Very simple story. Like I said, we only meet these 4 characters in the whole episode. We're only in the house, a brief scene where we're in the other apartment, but very simple, but it doesn't drag. You would think like with a small cast, small amount of set changes, simple storyline that it would kind of drag on. And there are shows that we do that have triple the cast and they're going all over the place. And I'm time watching the whole time.
Yeah.
I didn't check the time at all watching this.
Yeah, because this is 4 well-written characters that are interesting instead of 20 people with one detail about them. Like,
and that's the thing too. Like when you look at these 4 characters, and again, trying as hard as we can to remove what we know from the show, which I know is near impossible. You still get a very good vibe from this episode, who they all are and their relations to one another.
You also get their relationship.
Isn't that what I said?
Yes, it is, and I had to pivot.
You don't have to say something. Like if you don't have anything,
sometimes
if you don't have something to say, you don't have to just make something up.
Sometimes you do.
yeah, and sometimes you do.
And sometimes you do.
Sometimes you do.
Yeah, this show, I don't know. It's it was fun to revisit it. I'll say that. Before we recorded, I had said to you guys when I watched it, like, I wanted to reserve a lot of my thoughts, until we talked. And it's like, I really struggle with, it's like, at the end of the day, it's did you like it or did you not? It's not about how much we dissect it. It's did you enjoy the show or did you not? But I was like, this show, and the times are so different. There's so much to pick apart when you watch this show.
Yeah.
That you have to take the deep dive analytical brain out and just watch it for what it is, because this show, the situation as a whole is an unbelievable situation. The problems were created by themselves and had simple resolutions. They're not recognizing your own wives when they're 2 feet in front of you or physically touching you, and you still don't recognize them, is not believable. But I don't know. There's just something about, I don't know. I hope it's not the nostalgia kicking in, because it is still enjoyable to watch.
It's okay if it is, though, too, right? Like, because your impression of this show is still, the nostalgia is part of that,
No, but I kind of want to think about it as like, is this show a good show regardless of whether or not I've seen it? And that's kind of what I feel like we do. It's like, it doesn't matter if,
like we discussed, though, I think it's kind of impossible, but if you had to, I don't know. I don't think you can be too critical of it. Just because also, too, it's such a spearhead of, just television in general, taking away your nostalgia and just, appreciating what it did for television and thus, what we do on this podcast. It's revolutionary. You can't, it's pretty obvious how I'm leaning here, but like, how can you, does anybody just not like this show? Like, I don't understand how you could.
I'd be very curious. I'd be very curious about the future generation, or like the kids now.
That was
if they were to watch it, because we did. I mean, like we said, we did come into watching the show after it was done. This was not our era. This show was over well before any of us were born, and we came into it super late.
And we enjoyed it.
And we did enjoy it. So I think that does say a lot.
Were we the last generation, though?
That's kind of, kids are so different now. I do wonder if they could watch this and enjoy it, or anything in black and white in general. I think
that's true.
No, you just tell them it's just some art picture.
Yeah. I'm also surprised they've never fully colorized this like they did with like the Wizard of Oz.
I think they did.
Some of it has been. I don't know about all of it.
Some of it, but definitely not all of it.
Corder, you're the pulse of the youth. What do you think?
I actually think that a lot of the kids probably aren't going to watch this. They're just going to think this is like great grandma's show. And it is. So like
great grandma show.
Yeah, or great grandma's show.
What is interesting about this, though, is for the youth, it is very attention span. It caters to a short attention span, which is kind of what the youth has. I mean, even we.
But does it? Like I said, like I wasn't watching the clock, but it's long dialogue. It's not a lot of set change and movement.
I don't know. I feel like it was just kind of like Well, I guess the plot of the episode was kind of like boom, 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 like problem. Then you get like the crescendo and then the resolve, right? Like it was just kind of pretty quick in 23 minutes. But I guess, yeah, if you're talking about today's TikTok, children, like they're used to 15 seconds. So maybe a little different.
I was going to say that also, too. I mean, I think that the youth today tend to look back at shows like this through more of a different lens, more of like a critical lens, and don't maybe take it for what it is. They maybe sort of look at the time frame a little too much. But again, I don't want to speak for the
I think
entire
you're right, 'cause I feel
youth.
like even we probably do the same thing with, like older black and white movies. Like we know Lucy so well, so that she kind of gets like a pass. But I mean, like I'm not sitting down to watch any older black and white movies, and they're probably great movies, so I would understand if the younger generations were not watching I Love Lucy.
I could see like Lucy coming in and that whole apartment scene being on TikTok and like just that one scene and that getting popular. Like I can see.
Put it on TikTok, see if you get any hits.
Don't we have a TikTok? Can't we just do that?
Technically, yes. Has it been updated in the last couple of years? No.
Put a Lucy clip on it. See what happens. See if the youth.
Let's bring back
like
Lucy. That's what we're gonna do. Hashtag bring back
AI
Lucy.
Lucy in modern day, yeah.
But before we get into the green light and cancel, just a couple more things about 1951 that I found. Atlas Comics.
Oh, good. I was figured you didn't give us enough already. You give us 4,000 facts.
Was established in 1951. Also, I gave you 10. Was that too much for you, Jay?
There's no way that was only 10 facts. Look,
There's Jay with his short attention span. You must be
It
one of the
was
youths.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 11, 12, 13. There was 13 there. I'm sorry, that was too much for you, Jay.
Jay can barely hold his attention for the skibbity toilet.
Shut up, Gordo. The Atlas Comics. Do you know what Atlas Comics is?
no.
They go on to become Marvel.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
come on, Fergie. Where were you on that one?
DC guy.
Oh, yeah, you are. Gross. Universal Television was established. And Texas Instruments, those people we paid too much for calculators.
I wonder what those cost now. Not to
They're still
They're
radically
still expensive.
Yeah.
They were $100 when we were in school. I can only imagine what they
Are they
cost
still
now.
on the 83? There's a TI 83, right?
Yeah, actually, yes. I had to buy one for my
They
last
still
class.
okay. So you can what?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. There's a TI 83 Plus on the Walmart website for $1,500,
Oh, that's just some dude jacking it up on Walmart.
and it's out of stock. But yeah, no, they're about the same price.
You could buy them new on Amazon for $66 and have it tomorrow.
There you go.
Yeah. I bought the cheap one. I bought the Casio alternative.
Now we can play Hit Quest again, Jay. Let's get them.
Drug Wars.
Drug Wars.
Oh my God, I remembered that.
That shit was
And
fun.
Block Dude.
He did all that data transfer too with like an audio cable. This is so
Yep.
weird.
Well, have we gone through all our 1951 facts, or are we ready for the green
I
light?
truncated that dramatically. So, I mean, I can go and pull some more out if you'd like.
You have one you feel really passionate about, but
I mean, I added all the ones that I think were, I mean, there's just like a list of people who died. I don't know who any of them are.
Give us the first three.
The first three: Andre Gide, Arthur Vandenberg, and Arthur Schnabel. That is an autobiographer, a politician, and a pianist.
A pianist.
I'm scrolling the list to find something that I did. Oh, Joe Jackson, Shoeless Joe, died in 1951.
okay, all right, we got one. That's a good stopping point. Yeah. In any event, we talked about this show at great length. It's real tough to not think about or not mention the cultural significance of this show. It's legendary. It's kind of forever in our world, at least our generation. Like I don't know about the youth, but we grew up on it despite it coming out so early, and it's tough to think of people that wouldn't know this show, or it still finds its way to references within pop culture from time to time to this day. So
Yeah, shows to this day parody the chocolate scene.
Yeah.
Remember seeing that on
Yeah.
Nickelodeon.
yeah, there's a lot of iconic moments that came from the show. thinking of just this episode alone, we'll greenlight or cancel. Again, S1E1pod.com. I don't think I said that at the top of the episode, but S1E1pod.com is where you can find all our social medias, everywhere you can follow us. So head over there, like, subscribe, do all those things on all of the things. We appreciate it. And be sure to hit us up because we like talking to you guys and knowing shows you want us to cover for future episodes. We take a lot of ideas from you guys, and we like to know how you found us and all that stuff. But in any event, there will be a graphic at the end of the week that will tell you the final tally because we don't have Joe here. So in the event of a tie, you can find out on S1E1 Pod on Instagram.
There's not going to be a tie.
Probably not going to be a tie, but follow us anyways. Please give us a follow on those things. But in the order I see you in, Nick, starting with you.
Yeah, it's an easy green light. It's just entertaining front to back. It was, and again, we're trying our best to remove any nostalgia and the fact that we watched so much of the show. But I think that is, partially impossible to do too. But doing your best to do that, it's just a really fun show. It's a small, simple cast of people who work really well together, telling a simple story that is funny front to back. It's just, like I said earlier, it's the simplicity is kind of what makes this so enjoyable to me. That there's no frills about this. It's just, here's the story. We're gonna inject a bunch of funny stuff, and that's that. And it worked really well. So yeah, really easy green light.
Berg.
Yeah, I mean, this is an example of less is more. 4 characters, 5 locations total, and no, it's 5. There's the kitchen, the living room, downstairs, and Fred's house, Fred's kitchen, and the boxing ring. 5.
When do they go to Fred's kitchen?
When they go into the other room and look out at them.
No, they're in their kitchen upstairs.
I thought the women came from upstairs.
No, everyone's upstairs for that part. They're
All
waiting
right,
in
so
Ricky's apartment.
All right, so 4.
All right, so I don't want to go throughout your green light too much. 4 in one of the last one is like a very quick, like mostly the 3, but regardless, go on.
But the show is near perfect. I can think back to watching these on Nick at Night. I hated black and white shows. I would change them. I never really watched Dick Van Dyke, any of those. There's a reason why I've seen almost every episode of I Love Lucy, and it's because it's hilarious. So I loved it then. I love it now. It's not just nostalgia. Green light.
Gordo.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say that other people already haven't? I remember watching this on Nick at Night all the time. And I think the other thing, too, is that when our parents would make us watch some of their shows, some of those were like real stinkers, right? Or like you didn't get like an appreciation of them, like say MASH, until you got older and you could maybe understand the dynamics a little bit, right? But it was a boring show. But this is like the stuff that like our parents would show us and be like, see, look, television back in my day was funny. And it was. And it's very simple. There's a reason why this is like a legendary show. Like there's just watch this episode 1, and you'll see why. You didn't need a backstory. You didn't need anything. They kept it simple and it worked. So green light.
Yeah, like I said, I have a lot of struggles with the storyline or the believability of a lot of things. But at the end of the day, I was entertained. Like I said earlier, I wasn't watching the time as I was watching this because, it is homework for us too when we're doing it sometimes. So, but yeah, for a show with so few characters, so few sets, for it to be dialogue driven but still funny and go by as quickly as it did for the time of the running time of the episode says a lot. Just a funny show. There's a reason it's timeless. I thought this episode was really funny. So green light for me as well. So with that being said, 4 out of 4 so far. Joe's vote will be included in the final graphic. Again, you'll find that at S1E1 Pod on social media. But congratulations to I Love Lucy. You do go on to see a second episode with us. Again, a reminder, S1E1 Pod. Go over there, subscribe, hit us up. We want to talk to you guys. We really like to know how you found us and shows you want us to cover, because if we're doing shows that none of you like, it kind of doesn't matter because no one will listen to them. So with that being said, thank you guys so much. We'll catch you again next week with another new episode. But until then, thank you. Goodbye.
I think we got the best bongo boobies.
Oh, Baba Loobs.
Oh, that was it. Babaloo Bongo Boobies.